The time by Carrie Chris is 6 p.m. Time for CBX Business News. The business news headlines is brought to you by QMax Wealth Management, making more possible. Private sector power, trade tensions return, and big strategic moves on the global stage. Hello and welcome to CBX Business News for Wednesday, July 9, 2025. I'm Yunil Wood. Thanks for joining us. Coming up in the newscast locally, Jamaica's Prime Minister says the private sector must play a pivotal role in driving regional development and economic resilience. On the regional front, the 90-day suspension on the U.S. 10% baseline tariff on CARICOM imports expires today. Regional leaders strategize a unified response. And over on the global stage, major corporate strategic shifts are underway as Boeing stock surges, BlackRock expands its market footprint, and Hershey appoints a new CEO. Stay tuned as we unpack these stories and more right after this break.
Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited has been a part of Jamaica's manufacturing landscape for over 20 years. By crafting unique flavors and fragrances, we have become a part of your favorite household and food items such as beverages, ice cream, household cleaners, and much more. Known throughout the Caribbean for the highest quality, we continue to innovate with strong leadership, a dedicated team with integrity. We go the extra mile for our customers. Create the next taste sensation. Contact us at 876-9235-111 or visit our website, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn pages.
Caribbean Dreams Instant Turmeric Tea. What you put in is what you get out. What you put in is what you get out. Yeah. Build up your body, boost up your brain. Take on the world now. Say bye-bye pain. Caribbean Dreams Instant Turmeric Tea. Be good to you. Caribbean Dreams Instant Turmeric Tea. Distributed by Amalgamated Distributors Limited.
Hi, I'm Nielsen Rose, host of Let's Talk Stocks, reminding you that health is indeed wealth and time is really money. Why not spend a little time with us? Weekday mornings, 9 to 9:30 a.m. for your daily dose of business, economic, and investment insights.
I'm trading stocks to achieve my financial goals.
I'm also trading stocks to achieve my financial goals.
Start a conversation with the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
Check jamstockx.com for information and a list of registered stockbrokers. You can also call the Jamaica Stock Exchange at 876-967-3271 for information on how to begin. I am achieving my financial goals.
I'm achieving my financial goals.
The local news is brought to you by Derriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, tease the senses. And Pulse Investments. Welcome back to CBX Business News. We begin with the latest on private sector's role in driving economic development. Jamaica's Prime Minister and Chairman of CARICOM, Dr. Andrew Holness, has reaffirmed the pivotal role of the private sector in driving regional development and economic transformation across the Caribbean. Addressing a CARICOM business forum hosted by the CARICOM Private Sector Organization, CPSO, and the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, PSOJ, at Sandals, Montego Bay in St. James on Tuesday, Dr. Holness emphasized that the region's transformation is not possible without the private sector.
The transformation we seek, we know it is not possible without the private sector. The history of the Caribbean has been ambivalent about its private sector. But I'm happy to say that certainly in the last decade, there has been a closer embrace of the private sector as partners for development.
Holness says the private sector is viewed by regional heads as the engine of growth.
I believe I speak for all the heads that we see the private sector as the engine of growth. Our job is to get out of your way. Our job is to facilitate, and our job is to make the playing field level and to give you a good wicket on which you can go and make the runs.
The Prime Minister added that with varying global events negatively affecting Caribbean economies, heads of government and the private sector need to be urgent, strategic, and unemotional in how they respond to these challenges.
We are operating in a global environment marked by persistent volatility, rising protectionism of all kinds, new and emerging ways to protect markets, disruptions of all kinds, including climate-related disruptions, geopolitical tensions, and economic fragmentation. These dynamics exert disproportionate pressure on small island developing states like ours and underscores the urgency. I agree with you, Gervais. It's not just resilience and diversification. We have to pursue these with urgency. And in addition to urgency, we must be strategic. And sometimes being strategic means that we have to be unemotional about the decisions that we have to make.
In the meantime, CARICOM Chairman Dr. Andrew Holness emphasized that the CARICOM Single Market and Economy CSME remains key to unlocking economies of scale and boosting competitiveness across the region.
At the center of that shared agenda is the CARICOM Single Market and Economy, our most important framework for achieving regional collaboration and strategic cooperation. Jamaica remains steadfast in our belief that this is essential for achieving economies of scale, improving competitiveness, and transforming lives and livelihoods for our people. And at this point, I would say that, yes, individually our economies are small, but collectively, the sum of our parts are greater than the whole.
However, Dr. Holness insists that intra-CARICOM trade remains too low, standing at just 11%.
But yet, intra-CARICOM trade remains just at 11.2% of our total trade. So there is great room for us to expand internally our own trade and development.
The CARICOM chair further emphasized that the CSME must be regarded as a vital shield of resilience for Caribbean nations amid global uncertainties.
As global shocks multiply and traditional markets become more uncertain, the CSME must be treated not just as an economic aspiration, but as a critical shield of resilience and self-reliance. We must eliminate inefficiencies and regulatory delays so that Caribbean goods and services can move across the region with speed, certainty, and confidence.
Chairman of CARICOM and Prime Minister of Jamaica, Dr. Andrew Holness. In all the news, the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association, JMEA, has extended the application deadline for its highly anticipated 2025 Manufacturing and Exporting M&E Awards to Friday, July 11. The extension provides an additional opportunity for companies across the island to showcase their achievements in innovation, sustainability, and export growth. The awards include the ESG Most Suitable Manufacturer Award and the Inclusivity Award, encouraging businesses to gain national recognition for their hard work and impact in manufacturing and exporting. JMEA has also expanded the Vision 2030 Corporate Social Responsibility Award into two categories, one for MSMEs, that's micro, small, medium enterprises, and one for large companies, to better acknowledge outstanding community development and social responsibility efforts. Other categories open for application include the Best Support Service Award, N. Gordon Rowe by Jamaican Award, NCBJ Quality and Standards Awards for large and MSME companies, JPC Productivity and Competitiveness Awards also for large and MSME companies, and the New Exporter of the Year Award. Now to foreign currency trading news. At the end of Wednesday's currency trading, the US dollar is selling for $161.06, the Canadian for $118.96, and the pound sterling for $220.67. The going rate for the euro is $188.31. And from BOJ's foreign currency trading, we go to trading news on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. 108 stocks traded on the JSE Wednesday, of which 33 advanced, 56 declined, and 19 traded firm. Leading the winners were Jamaica Public Service Company 7%, ISP Finance Services, First Rock Real Estate Investments US dollar, and Knutsford Express. While the losers were led by Main Event Entertainment, Blue Power Group, MFS Capital Partners, and QWI Investments. The main index declined by 1,909.54 points, or 0.62%, to close at 306,865.74. The junior market index also declined, but by 16.07, or 0.47%, to close at 3,420.73. Today's market education feature will be looking at pro forma financial statements. Now, do you know what that is? A pro forma financial statement is a financial report used by companies to project the potential impact of a strategy or future scenario, such as a merger, expansion, or downturn. The term pro forma comes from Latin meaning for the sake of form, often referring to something done as a formality or for appearances. Unlike standard financial statements, pro formas are built on assumptions and estimates. Because of this, publicly traded companies are legally required to include explanatory notes and avoid misleading investors. And that's it for Market Education feature and the end of the local segment. Please stay with us The regional business news is up next. The local news is brought to you by Derriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, tease the senses. And Pulse Investments. Welcome back. We go now to news from across the region. With a 90-day suspension of a 10% baseline U.S. tariff on CARICOM imports expiring today, July 9, regional leaders are racing to shield their economies from a potential trade fallout. The CARICOM Prime Ministerial Subcommittee on External Trade Negotiations convened on July 7 in St. James, Jamaica, to craft a unified response to the United States' America First trade policy, which sets a baseline tariff on goods entering the U.S. from CARICOM states. The high-level meeting was chaired by Prime Minister of Jamaica and new CARICOM chair, Dr. Andrew Holness, who urged his CARICOM counterparts to act decisively, describing the current moment as a critical juncture in the region's economic ties with its largest trading partner. CARICOM leaders are looking to safeguard regional exports by ramping up internal coordination and preparing for possible long-term shifts in trade dynamics. Holness, however, warned of a global trading landscape marked by rising unilateralism, growing tensions, and increasing policy uncertainty, all of which could disrupt economic stability in small open economies like those in the Caribbean. We move now to the latest development on regional integration coming out of the recently concluded CARICOM Heads of Government meeting. In a significant step to advance regional integration under the CARICOM Single Market and Economy CSME, Barbados, Belize, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Dominica are set to implement full free movement of skilled nationals by October 1 this year. Full free movement will allow qualified professionals to work, establish businesses, and offer services across member states without the need for work permits or skills certificates. The announcement came from CARICOM Chairman Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness during the closing press conference of the 49th CARICOM Heads of Government meeting in Montego Bay.
The CARICOM Single Market and Economy, we agreed that the pace and scope of implementation was just too slow, and we agreed that we will do everything in our power to speed up implementation. And I'm pleased to share that we are now moving from applying administratively the protocol on enhanced cooperation, which all member states have signed, with now 4 countries, Barbados, Belize, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Dominica, reiterating their willingness to implement full free movement under the protocol starting October 1, 2025.
The CARICOM chairman says regional leaders have agreed to expand the list of skilled occupations eligible under the CSME.
Heads agreed to add aviation personnel to the approved list of skilled categories. And it is worth noting that Jamaica contributed 3 new occupations to the list, namely photogrammetry, field maintenance personnel, and aircraft maintenance personnel.
CARICOM Chairman and Prime Minister of Jamaica, Dr. Andrew Holness. In all the news, President of the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, PSOJ, Metri Siaga, is urging CARICOM governments to urgently address regulatory inefficiencies and infrastructure gaps to unlock the region's economic potential and strengthen the CARICOM Single Market and Economy, CSME. Speaking on Monday during the Regional Private Sector Leadership Breakfast at the 49th Regional Meeting of CARICOM Heads of Government, Siaga urged regional leaders to cut trade barriers and standardize regulations to boost regional trade and business growth.
We fully support the goals of the CARICOM single market and economy, but those goals need action. We need to tear down the non-tariff barriers that make trade between our islands harder than it is to have trade with countries that are thousands of miles away. Let us simplify the protocols. Let's make it easier to do business across our respective borders. We have the talent, the creativity, and the natural resources. And with the right framework, we can finally compete on a global scale.
Siaga also advocated for modern infrastructure to support scalable businesses and regional value chains.
We need bold leadership now more than ever. Policies that reduce the cost of doing business, that foster innovation, and attract the kind of investment that builds jobs and exports. We don't need more red tape, we need more action.
President of the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, Metri Siaga. We go now to trading news from the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. 19 securities traded on the TTSE Wednesday, of which 5 advanced, 5 declined, and 9 traded firm. Leading the winners were Agostini's Limited, Guardian Holdings, Prestige Holdings, and the West Indian Tobacco Company, while leading the losers were Calypso Macro Index Fund, One Caribbean Media, Unilever Caribbean, and Grace Kennedy. Other results include the All TNT Index advancing by 0.92 to close at 1,490.11. The Composite Index declining by 0.39 to close at 1,019.06. The Cross-Listed Index also declined, but by 0.25 to close at 72.10. And still remaining at 96.37 is the SME Index. And we take a short break, but please stay with us. Nielsen Rose is up next with our International Business News segment.
To open a savings account for my son John. I really want him to start saving and managing his own money.
And I need for Safe to visit my father in New York.
Okay, based on what you said and our risk assessment, he will qualify for simplified customer due diligence requirements. I'll need your ID, proof of income, TRN, and John's ID as well.
Okay, here you go.
Opening an account is easier than you think using simplified customer due diligence requirements, also called CDD.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. In the international news today, U.S. mortgage applications surged by 9.4% in the first week of July, marking the largest weekly increase in a month, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association. This was the third straight week of growth, the longest streak since early December 2024, as benchmark mortgage rates fell to their lowest levels since April. Refinancing applications, which are particularly sensitive to interest rate changes, rose 9% from the previous week and were up 56% year over year. Meanwhile, home purchase applications also climbed 9% on the week, translating to a 25% annual increase.
China's consumer prices rose 0.1% year over year in June, ending a 3-month streak of declines and beating market expectations of a flat reading. This marked the first annual increase in inflation since January, driven by e-commerce promotions, government subsidies for consumer goods, and easing trade tensions with the U.S. Non-food prices edged up 0.1% after remaining flat for 2 months, supported by modest gains in housing 0.1%. Clothing 1.6 compared to 1.5% in May, healthcare 0.4 versus 0.3, and education 1% versus 0.9. Transport costs continued to fall, but at a slower pace, down 3.7% versus 4.3. Food prices declined for the 5th consecutive month, though at a softer rate, 0.3% versus 0.4. Meanwhile, core inflation, excluding food and energy, rose 0.7% year over year, the highest in 14 months, and moving up from 0.6% in May. On a monthly basis, the Consumer Price Index, CPI, slipped 0.01%, following a 0.2% drop in May, marking the 4th monthly decline this year. Pharmaceutical giant Merck and Company has announced a $10 billion acquisition of Verona Pharma, a London-based biotech firm specializing in respiratory diseases. The deal grants Merck access to Ohtuvayre, Verona's FDA-approved treatment for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, as the company looks to strengthen its cardiopulmonary pipeline ahead of looming patent expirations. Approved in June 2024, Ohtuvayre is used for the maintenance treatment of COPD in adults and is currently being studied for additional indications including non-cystic fibrosis, bronchiectasis. Merck will pay $107 per American depository share, representing a 23% increase premium over Verona's last closing price. The transaction, approved by both companies' boards, is expected to close by the end of 2025, pending shareholder and regulatory approvals. This acquisition complements and expands the pipeline and portfolio for treatments of cardiopulmonary diseases, said Merck CEO Robert Davis, highlighting the deal's potential to deliver both near and long-term growth. Verona's CEO, David Zaccardelli, added that Merck's global reach and clinical expertise will help accelerate Ohtuvayre's availability to more patients worldwide. The move is part of Merck's broader strategy to offset the anticipated 2028 patent tariff cliff for its blockbuster cancer drugs, Keytruda, which generated nearly $29.5 billion in sales last year. Boeing delivered 60 aircraft in June, marking its strongest monthly performance since December 2023. The surge was fueled by increased output of 737 MAX, with 42 jets handed over to major carriers including Southwest and United Airlines. The company also reported 150 total deliveries in the second quarter, its best Q2 showing since 2018, signaling a strong rebound in commercial aviation. In a notable leadership move, Kirk Tanner, CEO of Wendy's, has been named the new CEO of Hershey's Company. Tanner, who previously held senior executive roles at Pepsi-Cola, is expected to bring deep operational expertise and brand leadership to its iconic chocolate and snacks company as it navigates evolving consumer trends. Asset management giant BlackRock has made another strategic acquisition in the private market space, reinforcing its commitment to expanding beyond traditional investment vehicles. The move reflects a growing investor appetite for alternative investment assets amid shifting economic conditions and market volatility. And those were your international business stories. After the break, join Neil for your recap.
Welcome back, and now the recap. Jamaica's Prime Minister says the private sector must play a pivotal role in driving regional development. On the regional scene, 90-day suspension on the U.S. 10% baseline tariff on CARICOM imports expires today. And internationally, major corporate strategic shifts underway as Boeing soars, BlackRock expands, and Hershey names new CEO. Those were the stories making today's CBX Evening News. On behalf of Nielsen Rose and the entire production team, I'm Yanil Wood, wishing for you a splendid evening. And thanks for watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.